Welcome back to AnimeCons TV. I'm Doug Wilder. Once again, we're reviewing Otakon, and once again, I've dragged a familiar cohort.
He dragged me to this. I haven't slept in 3 days. I just checked into my new hotel room, and I was going to take a nap, and Doug dragged me here.
You're welcome.
Yes.
But it's, again, it's the end of it. We have our ice cold water, and we're going to talk about Otakon this year for the last year in the Baltimore Convention Center.
Oh my god.
I've really been thinking a lot this weekend how it feels like the end of an era. My not to try and brag, but my very first convention was Otakon 2001, and now this is the 16th year I've been going to this thing. And a lot of people have been saying how it's very bittersweet. We want to see the con grow, we want to see the con continue to succeed, but there is a part of us all here, and I joke that there's a part of me here, not just the time I cut my hand on one of the railings. And especially I think a lot of the businesses around the convention center this year, we're talking about how much they're going to miss the event.
The Lyft drivers, because I've been using Lyft and Uber the whole weekend because I just was not, it was too humid. So the drivers were saying, man, when this thing moves, they're going to feel really bummed out about it. And it's just, I don't know. I don't want my last memories of Otakon in Baltimore to be what they are right now. It was just, the energy was different, and I was just,
It's interesting you mention that, because there was a different, in a good way, there was a different energy than what I've been used to for the past couple of years. There was a lot more just people being really positive to each other. I mean,
yeah. Oh no. Definitely the positivity was up. The crowd was up. I mean, I did. Yesterday there was the LGBT anime manga panel that had a really good crowd reaction, really good people. And right after that, I was doing the persona panel where we talked about like gender and identity issues, and the audience was very receptive about it. I mean, the audience was very, very interested in just engaging and being nice and being supportive. I saw so much of that this year, which really struck me as very positive. I mean, the attendees are still getting younger, and in the case of me, I'm just getting older by the day. Seriously, I'm older now than when I got here on Friday. And it's just things. It's good to see that the future is going to be a big deal. At the same time, it's very bittersweet for me personally, because the last year of Otakon in the harbor, I didn't do anything except work.
And to that note, like you were saying before we got started recording, that you don't have a whole lot to say, which is...
I don't have a whole lot to say.
But on the plus side, this is going to be a nice reversal, because I have like 2 pages worth of notes for myself here.
I saw you like all of 3 times this weekend. I mean, I saw you we went to the museum on Thursday. I saw you at the Oda Brew on Friday, which was amazing. And then I didn't see you again until you were in the dealer's room.
Yeah, the Oda Brew, which was the beer tasting thing that a couple of our friends organized, which then that's something that...
Oda Brew established 24.
Yeah. This was something that I really kind of thought about. Like, I was kind of stressing before this con.
I think everyone.
And I think it's because, sometimes it's the end of July, and this time it was one of the times it was mid-August, so it kind of crept up on you. But the way I kind of described it was, and this is because I've gotten to know a lot of good people from this event, I felt like it felt half like a con, half like a family reunion with the best parts of my family. It's like this is my crew, this is the people I want to be nerdy with.
You see, I still get that, but I don't get it here anymore. I used to get it at Otakon a lot. Now I get it at I get it a lot at KatsuCon. I get it a lot at NekoCon or Anime USA. But for me, within the last 2 years, Oda has become a business event for me, and I've kind of hit that niche. I mean, I now understand when artists say they're chained to their tables and they don't get to do anything except to go to the artist alley. I know exactly what they feel like, because I spent a grand total of 8 hours this weekend, literally just going from panel to panel, running stuff, and trying to sell some books. And on that end, it was amazing. But at the same time, I feel like I let the whole year pass me by. I didn't do anything. And I didn't do anything for the very, very stupid reason of this was going to be the convention that kept me going for the next 2 months financially. I sacrificed the last Otakon in the harbor so I wouldn't have to worry about rent and bills for the next 2 months. But at the same time, when people talk about, oh, that last year in the harbor, what was it like? I'm literally going to say, I don't remember. I remember money.
It was
that's about
business.
it. I remember money. That's about it.
But, I mean, you mentioned doing your panels, and that's just something I really wanted to talk about this year was... I know a couple people that said they went to some bad panels. I went to a really good variety of stuff. I'm just going to run through some of the ones I went to. Discotech Media, which was the only real industry panel I went to. And they're still a smaller company. They're much more boutique with their anime stuff. But one of the things they did for a little bit, and I would love to see them, have more than 2 minutes of conversation, like just stretch it out to 5. They talked about where the company began, like the first thing it licensed and how it started. And that was something that I remember last year they talked about designing box art and all the things. It was something different. It was a different angle of the industry. I went to one that was called No Side, which was the history of punk and hardcore music in Japan.
Yeah.
And that room was full.
The guy running that is awesome.
Yeah, Sean, and it was so neat because it's something different, but you can still connect it back to that theme of Asian culture or Japanese culture and stuff, and it worked really well. And it was so neat to not only see that kind of programming get accepted, but see it fill a room. That's not something you see very often.
This year the rooms were getting like really good responses. I mean, I alternated between line out the door and half filled for most of the weekend, but like the most positive buzz I got from all of the stuff I did weekend was the first anime. And it was my first thing on Friday. I was tired, I was frustrated. I ran into that room, and for 1 hour we had about 600 people just sitting there laughing at animation clips from like the early 20th century. And they were like, oh my god, that was so much fun. Please list this stuff online because you can find all this stuff on YouTube. The moment I played the one where Mickey Mouse attacks Japan, the whole room just started laughing. And that was really enjoyable because you get a bunch of people in a room that you don't think would enjoy it, and they do. This morning I did one on magical girl mythology, and there was this kid, like 10 years old, sitting right there in the front row. And we're talking about really cerebral stuff. And she's just returning it back at us. And I'm thinking, now that's the future right there.
Yeah.
That kid who probably dragged her parents to this panel is having the time of her life, and so are her parents.
I'm just going to again go through some of the other ones. There was one on the Brave series of mecha shows, which was good. There was one that was all 1980s mecha shows, and they started off, this is a Gundam and Transformers free zone. So they went with different things that people might not know about. And because I knew a couple people on the panel, they let me rant about Or Battle or Dunbine, which
everyone needs to see.
Good luck getting it. But
I had half of it.
There was also 70s anime, one that was really good. The other one, too, that really stuck out in my mind was Daryl Surratt did one of basically 30 years ago, like what anime were coming out in 1986, and I did not realize how many good things came out that same year.
Yeah.
And last, Ed Chavez, and I'm blanking on his co-panelist name, so forgive me, ran one on kind of ugly manga, like stuff that's so bad it's good, or sometimes so bad it's just bad, but kind of how some of these things, like how they come into existence and why it's bad and stuff like that. And again, it's something unusual. And
I didn't have the opportunity to see it, but I was hearing from Viga, who was one of the other featured panelists, and she's amazing too. She went to see Reverse Thieves. Such anime, very wow about dogs in anime. It's just a clip show of dogs in anime. And
I heard about this one.
Hilarious.
What was funny is the 30 years ago panel. Daryl Surratt showed a clip of an anime about dogs, like uniting the dogs of the world to fight grizzly bears or something. And so apparently both panels showed that clip, but pretty much the exact same time. The other thing I noticed was a lot of these panels were manga became more of the focus than anime, and it's a niche switch, which is going to lead me into kind of my one curmudgeon moment really about the con. Was I submitted the Shigeru Mizuki panel that got accepted, and I won't complain about the time slot. They gave me Friday night at midnight, which it was an all ages panel, and I hear from so many people saying that one thing they hate is when late night programming hits, it's all 18 plus, and there's nothing to do except to dance. So as an all ages panel at midnight, I have no complaint there. The issue I got was when the online schedule preview went up, and it was also in the print schedule, which was basically the online thing printed out. They had changed the title of my thing. The title of my panel was The Life and Times of Shigeru Mizuki. They changed it to Remembering Shigeru Mizuki, which it's in the same vein, but my feeling on that is it would have been so easy to either send me an email saying, hey, can we adjust the name so it'll fit in the printed guide, or when you do that, or when you code the page for panel submissions, program a character limit so it can't be any more than however many characters. And that's one thing. And I sent the panel staff an email, and again, I will give the panel staff credit. I appreciate their hard work. Do not get me wrong there. But the response I got was, oh, well, we can't fix that. That's just a glitch. That's not... A glitch would be if it kind of came out jumbled. That was someone's active decision that they wouldn't touch base with people. And that, to me, that was kind of insulting. And the other thing about it was a lot of panelists this year were having AV problems.
Oh, yeah.
Like I had several people there was a 15-minute bumper between panels, and they were still starting late because they were having AV issues, and I don't know what happened there.
I don't know what's going on, but my computer consistently, when I would plug the HDMI port into my computer, it would just consistently crash, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
And then in the middle of the Magical World panel, it started flickering, so I don't know what was going on with that. A little strange. I had slight technical issues during 2 of the panels I gave, but by and large, it went smoothly. Good clientele for panels this year. If you were in a room, the sweet spot for the rooms seemed to be about the 300 to 400s.
Yeah.
If you had a room that was even like the panels I did in the larger rooms, I was seeing about like between 300 and 500 people in every panel at least. Unless it was in a small room. Any of the rooms that were sub 300 were filling up like crazy.
Yeah, and that's panel 3 and 4 is where I spent a lot of my time, and those were the ones that were filling up.
Last night, my Folk Culture Modern Japan panel, I go there, I see this massive line, and I'm thinking, why? And then I realized it was a 248 seat room.
Yeah.
If I'd been in the 1,000 seat room, it probably would have been half full.
Yeah. But you mentioned lines. One thing that surprised me this year, and granted, I don't get autographs too often, especially from Japanese creators, unless there's someone that I really want. But Kazuki Akane was here because they're doing the redub of Vision of Escaflowne, and I decided, you know what, I'll bring something and see if I can get in line. Cool. If not, it's not the end of the world. His line at max was probably 40 people when I was in line for it on Saturday.
Wow.
And like, if I had a few more minutes, I probably would have run down to the dealer's room, picked up a second copy of something that I knew he worked on, even if I already owned it, and brought it back up to get a second autograph.
If I'd have known that, I would have.
Yeah, but he was very gracious to the fans. My little the neat little highlight for me is it's been almost 11 years since I did my semester in Japan, but I still remembered enough Japanese to say, you can write Doug in katakana, because the way my name is spelled, it's very hard to look at it. Yeah, it's very hard to figure out how to pronounce it, and so I just said, basically Dagu is okay. And just seeing the kind of smile when I spoke to him in Japanese and told him, here's the easy way to write my name, was a really cool little memory for me.
Yeah.
So that was cool. Let's see.
See, I get memories like that when I go to AnimeCons. I do. My interactions with Trigger the stuff of legends.
And that's the thing this year. So many people were, and I'm regretting I could not make Anime Next this past year because I've heard so many people mention how good Anime Next was this past year. So
I'm hoping.
I'm going to try and make it next year.
Here's what I'm hoping. Anime Next moved from its longtime home in Somerset to Atlantic City, to a bigger venue in a major area. And I was terrified it was going to bomb. It did not. It did very, very well. Now, the best thing I can hope for with Otakon is that when Otakon moves into DC, that this will happen. It's a more established show. It has a built-in fan base, and admittedly, it's not like it's moving 2 hours across the state to a part that's hard to access. It's literally on the same train line, just the next city over. That said, I'm still going to worry a little bit.
Absolutely, but at the same time, I think this will be an opportunity for some of their staff to look at so many rooms at Otakon. You have to wonder, is this the best use of it? Because it feels like sometimes they put certain things like, say, on convention operations, and that's not an insult on them, just as using this strictly as an example. But say ConOps is always in this room because that's always where we've put ConOps. This is an opportunity to look and say, is this the best spot for this panel room, this staff room, this video room, things like that. So I think that's a good opportunity for them.
I do admit the layout can get a little buggy at times.
Yeah. There's that one statue on the ground level that I've been going to this con for 16 years. It still messes me up, and I see it out the corner of my eye and think it's a person for a split second.
Yeah.
That freaking artist statue.
Yeah, no,
and it's a Pokestop too, no less.
Oh god, Pokemon Go this week.
Yeah, and that was the one.
I discovered how many of my friends play Pokemon Go. Most of them.
What amazed me was Pokemon Go is a month old. Like the day before badge pickup started, I think was Pokemon Go hitting 1 month. And the number of people either dressed up as trainers, or memes of it, or dressed up as whatever team they belong to. Team Valor is still the best. You would have thought this thing had been out for 5 months. Like people had been planning this. No, this was a month, and everyone was going nuts with it. But it was so nice to see because everyone had different interests, like what type of game, how they play the game, and stuff like that. But everyone was being super nice. And the interview we got to have with some of the voice actors for Pokemon were commenting on how nice it was to see people having fun with it. Though, as much as I love seeing all the Pokemon trainers and everything like that, I have to say I had one of the best watching the cosplayer experiences I have ever seen at a con. Friday, if you looked around like some of the tables where people could drop off like postcards or something, and one was in the panelist lounge, someone had dropped off cards that looked like Lupin the Third calling cards that said, during Otakon 2016, I will steal the Mona Lisa, signed Lupin the Third.
I wish I'd gotten one of those.
And I thought, wow, that's kind of clever. And I'm like, you know what? That would be awesome if, like, tomorrow or Sunday, I see a Lupin cosplayer carrying around a copy of the Mona Lisa. He did it. There was a Lupin cosplayer who had the same guy that made the cards was walking around with a copy of the Mona Lisa.
That's dedication.
It was such a clever thing, and like so many of that, like dropping stickers and stuff like that's harmful, but these were just like basically postcards, and I was like, dude, you won cosplay for Otakon in my opinion, because that was so clever, and it made my con, because just seeing something cool like that, and of course I saw him in line for the Discotech media panel.
Of course.
But it stands out as something that was so neat to me.
Yeah.
The only other thing I would like that really stands out for my notes, and I think I've crossed out most of them now, is the AMVs. I once again got to go to the AMVs, and I always liked looking forward to seeing what anime title am I gonna say, oh, I need to see that now because of the AMVs. And there were a couple. I made a list, but the romantic sentimentals category was very strong this year. It was one. The action one was decent, but it falls into that trap of how many effects can I cram into this video instead of trying to have a cohesive theme. But that was really good, and I was shocked that only one AMV had music from Hamilton in it. But I guess that person decided not to throw away their shot. So yeah, that's Otakon 2016. I know I will be back, if not in Baltimore, but I will be going back for Otakon 2017 and seeing how DC treats them. I'm looking forward to it. How about you?
I don't know. One of the things I've been dealing with this year is I'm trying to remind myself why I do what I do. And I've noticed several shows this year for me have literally turned into business ventures. In terms of business ventures, Otakon is amazing. But I did not enjoy myself. I felt like overstressed, too much hype, too little of anything else. And I keep feeling like maybe I need a breather for a little while. So I really have to think long and hard about next year. Because I don't know. I'm getting to that breaking point a little bit. I mean, this year was a burnout for me. Burned out. My stuff was great. I had wonderful audiences. They loved what I did. They were very appreciative, and I enjoyed giving them the panels. But what is Otakon for me in 2016? What is my final year on the harbor going to be? Running from panel room to panel room to panel room to panel room to panel room until I passed out at night. And is that really what I want when Otakon moves to DC? I gotta think on that.
Well, you got a year. And if you have any comments about anything that you saw at Otakon or any other con, next week is our usual feedback episode, so please send us any comments. We're on Twitter, Tumblr, Google+, Facebook, and if you want to use the old-fashioned way, there's always email, which is just podcast@animecons.com. And you can even leave us a voicemail. We love getting voicemail, especially if people have...
It's like 1-800-ADEQUATE, right?
It is 762-ADEQUATE. And give us a call. Let us know how your con experience is going, or if you have any other questions. Other than that, we will see you next time.
I am just about to enter it into the phone.
This is my 17th Otakon here at the Baltimore Convention Center. I've been coming since I was about 8 years old with my father, and I didn't actually even need a badge until I was about 11, because when you were under 10 or under, you didn't need to buy a badge. So I would run around these halls. Actually, it was much less crowded back then, about 30 the attendance, with my father, and I've been coming every year since. I've only missed 1 year out of those 17 years.
So I've been coming to Otakon for over 5 years, and I really enjoyed it being in Baltimore.
It's always been such an experience at Otakon. They have so many different types of varieties of dealers. They have so many different types of guests they always bring here. And every time it's always a different experience for me. When I was really little, I actually got sick after a costume contest and I couldn't compete anymore. And they felt so bad that they actually sent me a little parting gift, because they loved what I had done, because I did it all myself when I was only 10 years old.
This final year has been amazing, and there have been some great cosplayers and some great events going on. Also, some of the best panels I've seen in a long time.
I think what I'll miss about Baltimore is that it has really become a home for not just the con, but for the con attendees. That we all have our places that we know where to go, we know that we like, so we'll miss that home feeling. That it feels like a homecoming. Going to DC won't feel like that for a few years yet, I think.
It's kind of bittersweet to me in my head, because I'm excited because it's going to a bigger convention center and it's more modern and all these things, but it's kind of weird. It feels like Otakon's been this magical space and time at this particular location for so long for me and so many of my friends, and I've made so many friends here, and it's felt like, okay, I'm always going to come back to this city, this convention center, see all these people, go to all these places, nothing's going to change, and seeing it actually change is kind of weird.
I've had a lot of different type of memories here at Otakon, some silly, some sad, some awesome, and it's going to be kind of sad to see this place go.
I, for one, am mostly glad that it's moving to DC. I think that Baltimore is a nice place to visit, but I visited. I'm ready to go back home. And DC is a much nicer city.
I'm a little apprehensive about it going to be at Washington, D.C., but I think it's going to be a good move, and I think that there's going to be a lot of new faces and a lot of old faces going to it.
It's exciting, but almost sad in a way, because this one particular magical place and time is actually leaving, but hopefully it's replacing it with something better and more magical.
This is the last time I'm going to see people in these halls, and that is regrettable. I've had a lot of good times here, so I appreciate what Baltimore's done for me, but it's time to move on.